In this lesson, we're going to talk about the pen tool. So to go to the pen tool, we'll go to this icon right here. We can also press P on the keyboard. Now we have a new layer, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click anywhere in our document, and you can see the icon just letting us know that it's ready to add in a pen point. So if I just click, you can see we have this little point, and then as I continue to click, you can see how the points will then fill in with the color. Now, it's the same thing as that I showed you before with the lasso tool, is you can close off this point, this object, by just clicking on its origin point. Now keep in mind you can also drop the fill for this, for the color that you have, and this will allow you to see what's underneath this layer, the layer underneath. Now what you can also do is you can add in points by clicking anywhere within the in between of the points that you already have created. Now you're going to see that these have extra points, and those are Bezier points, and I'll show you those in a second. Now you can go down to this icon, and if you click on hold, you can see that we have a few different other options that we can choose. We have delete anchor point, so we can delete any of the ones that we created. Let me click on this again, and you can see another one. We have add anchor point, and you can see the difference. You have the plus sign and the minus sign on this icon. So we can go to add in an anchor point. Now, if I want to adjust this polygon, this amount of paths that we created, we can go down here to, we have path selection and direct path selection. So if I use the direct path selection, I can choose a point at any point that I created, and I can select it and then move it. Now if I go to the path selection, what that will allow me to do, that will allow me to move the entire path and all its points. Okay, great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to start over with a new layer, and we'll go back to our pen tool. We'll go to our original pen tool, and what we can then do is click, drag, click, hold, and drag, and that will bring us these Bezier points, these little anchor points, and I can continue clicking, holding, and dragging to create a curve path. And I'm just following the outline of this eye. And while I'm clicking, I can still go to the fill and drop the fill down, and that'll give me sort of an opacity if I would like. But I'm going to bring this all the way down to 0 for now. And now I can continue clicking and going through. Now, I want to point out something as you're using this pen tool. But real quick, let me undo for a second. And as I close this point, you can see how the icon changes. Same with the lasso tool. So I can click on it and then drag and then still adjust while holding down my mouse button. I can still adjust the length and the shape where I'm turning this at. So just keep that in mind. So what I was about to say is, what you can do is when you're adding in points, the more points that you add in, the more the rougher the path becomes. and the less, the more smoother the path becomes. So you can see I have a bunch of points up here, and if I bring up my fill and then I choose another layer to get rid of those points, not get rid of, but remove the visibility of those points, you can see the smoothness of this outline. Whereas here it's a little bit bumpy. It's a little bit, it's a little bumpy up on this top side a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that again. I'm going to make a new layer and I have my pen tool selected. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to start up here somewhere not quite at the top of this little ellipse. You can kind of look at this as an ellipse, not quite at the top. And I want to bring this over, click, hold, and drag, and I'm going to bring this fill down just so it's not distracting. And I'm going to click and drag again, and then click again and drag. And you're going to need to add in more points when you get to more of like or closer points when you want to have a nice tight turn like this. Click again, and then I'll click one more time here and then here. Okay, so now that I have those set, what I can then do is go to my direct selection tool and then start making adjustments to get the shape that I would like. So maybe I want to pull this anchor point a little bit closer over here so I can get this nice turn. And maybe I want to adjust these points just a bit, maybe spread them out. And you can always, if you accidentally miss it, what you can then do is click on the path to bring up that path again. But you can also go to your paths palette and you can see where you have this shape. So suppose I click off. If I click back on this again, you can see it brings it back. It brings back that path. So if you accidentally click off and you don't see it disappears because it's not an actual shape just yet, what you can then do is come back to your path palette and then select that layer, that path. I shouldn't say layer, but path. So what I can then do is come back and click on its individual points again. So here's a little rough area, so maybe I want to change the shape of this a bit. And you don't have to be perfect right now. I'm just kind of showing you exactly how to use this tool. So don't be afraid if you're not getting it exactly the way that you want. I just want you to see how these paths and these anchor points and what they do when you move them. And if you turn them, you can kind of get a really kind of like a twisted shape, depending on what object and kind of shape that you're making. Okay, so there are some other options here. If you go to this convert point tool, this is also very useful because say you're making a curve, you're making an object, you have this nice curved Bezier anchor points, but say you want to have a nice sharp edge. What you can then do is use this tool on a point and just click, and it's going to remove those handles. And you can do the same here. So now you have a nice flat shape going across with these nice curve shapes. So you can do that as well. So I'm going to undo. And now we have these nice paths that you can always go back to and change. Now, I had this down to fill, so I could bring this back down, bring this back up to 100%. And now I can fill this shape with anything that I want. I can fill it with a white, I can bring in a gradient. If I double click, I can go to a gradient overlay. So I have a bunch of different options that I can choose after I make the shape that I want. So just keep that in mind that this is available to you in any way that you want to do it. So if I bring back some of the painterly effects that I used, you can see now I have this nice shape.